right, cool. So thank you once again, John, for joining me today. We're doing another intro to the wonderful and crazy world of anime hangouts. We are on number 19. And I'm lagging like pretty badly.
By about a half a second.
I see it. I don't know what's going on. Anyway, we are doing episodes. Give me 1 second here. I think it's maybe because I got extra tabs open.
Okay.
So that's why.
We're covering episodes 5 through 8 this week, or this time.
Yes. So we can start off with episode number 5.
This really just picks up right at the end of 4, after they've introduced Lucifer. And it's effectively a fight between Alciel and Emmy versus Lucifer and Olba, who was actually one of the heads of the church in Enta Isla, who, in an effort to take down Satan, made a deal with Lucifer.
So for me, something that I really liked about episode 5 is the introduction of a bunch of new characters.
Yeah.
I really, really like Lucifer's character. He's actually one of my favorite characters in the show. He's got this like especially in this chunk of episodes from The Devil is a Part-Timer, like it's really apparent how he switches from being this evil badass to being more of a
slacker.
Yeah. And he's a man after my own heart because he's all about online shopping.
Oh yes.
So,
I did enjoy that aspect of it.
Yeah, that's not really in this episode. This episode is more of the resolution.
This is the fight. This is the actual battle, the actiony stuff. I was
Yes.
kind of hoping there would be more than one episode of this, though. They really punked him quickly and then changed his role. I was hoping for at least a couple of episodes.
You said you wanted it to continue for a couple more.
Yeah, I wanted to see a little bit more of the uncharacteristic for me, but I wanted a bit more of the action through, at least a few episodes.
That's what I was going to say. It's really funny because you're more of the type that likes the resolution and more of like the explanation type thing.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of the action scenes, which we'll get into with one of the new spring animes. But
yes,
with this episode, I like that they effectively made Mao support staff. He was just holding up the bridge to stop it from killing people and falling on Chiho, while the other two were off fighting.
One of the things that I really love is about this anime is its humor, and we get like some really great parts of that in this episode where what's the name? Alciel is saying, hey, what was it? Mouse says that he's kind of like a B movie.
Yeah, I love that one.
Olba being like a B movie.
He said, Olba had said, "You'll never hear from, you'll never be heard from again," or something like that. Some kind of cliche, threatening line to Emmy, and Mal said, "You only say that kind of thing in B movies," and Olba says, "What's a B movie?" Which I loved because I'm a B movie fan.
Oh no! I was actually thinking of you when I heard that. I was like, "Oh my god, that's genius! Like, how perfect is it for that statement to come out for you?"
Also, I noticed that Olba looks a lot like Dot Pixis from Attack on Titan. He's in one of the early episodes. Dot Pixis. He's the one who basically saves Eren's ass after they find out he's a Titan. He's the one who talks everyone down.
Oh yes.
With the bald guy with the mustache, looks just like him.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. I didn't think of that. Maybe it wasn't really intentional.
Well, probably. I think this, if I'm not mistaken, this predates Titan by a little bit, or at least it was probably about the same.
I think. Let me look it up real quick, but I think it's actually right around.
It's probably the same time, actually. Titan's a little older than I think it was, probably.
Let me see here.
I have Part-Timer was 2013. So yeah, actually, I think Titan was just before.
Maybe it's Titan. Yeah.
But they it couldn't have been an influence. They were probably working on this before they saw any of Titan.
Yeah.
It just happened. He's a random bald guy with a gray mustache. Could have
You don't
done
see
without.
very many random bald guys with gray mustaches, do
Oh,
you?
true.
Like in anime,
Uh-huh.
I don't really think it's a common.
Fair enough. Could have done without the vomiting gag in the beginning before the OP. We see is it Esmeralda or
Emeralda, yeah,
Esmeralda
Emeralda and
and
Alberto.
two of Emmy's cohorts from Anti Isla
Yes,
coming across the portal. And what is his name again?
Albertio, I think it was.
Avertia pulls out a vomit bag and just lurches into
Well,
it.
it kind of matches the whole if you remember Emmy was talking about how Olba was supposed to meet her in the portal and Olba I think was too slow or something, and then we had that flashback of Emmy in the portal, and I think there was a situation where she threw up or
Oh, okay, I didn't remember
so
that.
it matches. Like, I guess the idea is that going through the portal really like
Yeah.
screws up your body like massively. So,
Although I think it was Mao had a great line. I got to call out.
which one?
Fear turns into every negative emotion you can imagine.
Yes.
Because they explained that the reason Lucifer had gained so much power is because he was causing, he was the one who was responsible for the shooting attack and all of the crime rate that had risen throughout Japan.
Yes.
And he'd use this to generate fear to power himself. And
what's interesting also is that Lucifer is one of the generals of Satan. So the fact that you've got Lucifer, who's going against his master in this other world, and on top of that, he's joining the church.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Just the whole concept of it is really crazy.
Well, he's a demon. He wants power.
Exactly.
That's the whole point of the dark side. They go for power.
Right. And yet Sadao, he has a great statement in this episode where he talks about how he wants to pretty much defend humanity and says how he feels that basically he really enjoys being in the human world and he doesn't want to mess it up, which is really interesting considering that, everyone thinks he's the big bad devil.
Well, and a few episodes ago, he was talking about taking it over as well as into Aesop.
Yeah. And now he's more like, I want to defend it. I like the way it is.
Which gets into what Emmy was saying last episode about how humanity was affecting the both of them.
Exactly. And also, I would say that with Mao, you've also got Emmy, who okay, so let's backtrack a little bit. With Lucifer causing all this panic and causing all of these like fear and negative emotions in the city, the Tao ends up turning into Satan, and he gets all powerful, and
he
feeds off
the same energy.
The same reason why Lucifer has power, and so does Emmy. Emmy also has her power, and it's funny because in this episode, Mao didn't really know who Emmy was, like as far as her background, and he comes to find out that she's half angel.
Right. He reveals that later in the episode, and he was very surprised by it.
Yes.
Although, with regard to Emmy, I do have to call them out on a trope again. She did the whole incantation before she could power up thing. That is so typical of things like I want to say like Dragon Ball and things like that.
Well, it is like part of. I mean, it's the world of anime, so they can't really. I mean,
that whole trope just always struck me as really cheesy.
Well, I think some things that they do are almost parody.
Yeah, it could be a parody, and she only does it the one time, so.
Yeah, we haven't seen her do it any other time.
And she has pulled out the sword a couple of times since then, and she didn't have to go do the incantation.
Yeah.
I was pleasantly surprised by a couple of things, though. Lucifer pretty much shot out Mal's heart. Put a hole that big right through his chest. Effectively killed him. Really surprised me. Of course, he's able to regen because of all of the negative energy from
Right.
the bridge collapse that Lucifer caused. I was also really surprised that they let Shiho in on who they were so early in the series.
Well, I think it's kind of one. Well, Emmy is the one that says, I don't know why, but I've decided to let you in on the truth of who we are and where we come from. But remember, Chiho already has a connection because of the idea link.
Yeah.
She's already there. Like, she's already in the middle of it. Even if they wanted to get her out of it, she's still in it.
Yeah.
You know?
And there was really no way to keep it from her at that point because she was right under the bridge that was collapsing. Lucifer was taunting her at the end of the last episode.
Yeah, he wanted to use her as his first victim, and really as a way to show his abilities and his power over Satan, and it actually backfired on him.
Although I was a little unclear about what happened to Emmy when she ran to catch Shiho. Because she runs and she deals down and catches her, and you see her stockings rip, but you also hear a cracking sound.
You know, I didn't really think about that, but
if you just look at it, it looks like she just skinned the hell out of her knees, which makes sense. But the cracking sound implies a break.
Actually. Huh?
The cracking sound kind of implies a break, unless that was supposed to be the stockings ripping.
Maybe it's a stocking.
Yeah.
So basically, episode 5, we get the resolution. Olba is the one who had come through and was trying to. I'm sorry. Lucifer came through and is working with Olba to destroy Satan and to destroy the hero.
And on Lucifer's, and he's getting more power. He's getting an opportunity to take out his boss, effectively.
Right. And it doesn't work out for him because Satan is a badass, and which it sounds so funny to say that, but it's.
And it was kind of odd to see someone dressed like Olba using a gun, though. I mean, and they kind of call it out.
Why are you using a gun? Because even Emmy was like, "Oh, but you got a gun? Like, that's so weird, especially for like somebody who's in the church. Like, he's using a gun. That's crazy."
And it's this typical fantasy, effectively kind of a priest mage's outfit with the robe and everything, and he's there with a gun. It was odd.
Well, I mean, stranger things have happened, especially in anime. So, right?
It was a cognitive disconnect. But so they end up, the good guys, Emmy, Satan, and LCL end up kicking all the Lucifer's ass, and we end with Olba tied up when Emeralda and the other one come in and to clean up the mess and take him back.
Yes.
And we're not really sure what happened to Lucifer until the next episode.
I thought Olba was taken in by the police.
Oh, was he? Oh, okay.
Yeah, because in the next episode, that's the reason why Urushihara, which is what the name of Lucifer, the name they gave him, is because he was trying to hide from the police.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So, but I really love that Emeralda and Albertio go to King Satan's castle, and the castle is like this.
Yeah, his apartment.
And they're talking, and to Eastland, and they're basically like saying like, "This is King Satan's castle." Like, really? What? I mean, like, in to Eastland, he has this huge thing. And
was that the first time they used that gag? Because they used it a couple of times in these episodes, where they referred to the apartment as his castle.
Oh no, this is multiple times that they've done it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Emmy criticized it last episode when she stayed over.
Right.
She criticized it the first time she saw it. He criticized it. Even LCL criticized it himself. Like they were like.
So it has been a running gag. That's what I asked, because it didn't feel like that was the first time. It seemed like more familiar.
But it was just funny because the Enta Eastlands recognize like King Satan's castle is like first episode. Remember,
oh, yeah, we saw it.
the episode where we see this huge castle and Satan is there. So that's kind of funny because they are going to this one room shack and they're just like, okay, that's a castle. So
I think that brings us up to episode 6.
Yeah. That actually, so Elmerelda and Albertia leave. I think they go back to Enta Isla and they are figuring out what to do with Lucifer. So we go into episode 6 and we see, I love the intro of this episode.
The very beginning was one of the best gags in the series so far.
I love it.
Because you see Mao doing this, evil incantation, talking about, how you have to burn and all of this. Very typical.
What's hilarious to me especially is that he's really fulfilling his like Dark Lord, he
cackles. I think he might have cackled at one point.
Yeah, he did. He's like the meat and everything. And okay,
and
as somebody
he's pulled back and he's talking to a hibachi.
Yes. And okay, so I will tell you this. When I was in Taipei in December, right? Basically what I had sukiyaki. I think it's sukiyaki. And I was so excited because, you're cooking the food and everything.
At the table.
Yeah. Oh, and I feel that way about food. So for me, like seeing Mao like act that way about food, I was so excited because I understand it. So
it was just this great gag because it's this typical line for his character in a sense, who he was, and you pull back and they're just him and LCL are just sitting at this booth in a restaurant with the hibachi.
Yes.
And what was the line about intestines?
LCL is the one who stops him. LCL is like, sire, maybe you should beware of your surroundings. Like people are staring at us.
Effectively, what Mao said to Emmy in a previous episode. Dude, we're in public. People are going to think you're a lunatic.
Yes. So that was pretty awesome. Then they decide, they're like, oh, maybe we should bring something home for Urushihara. And we find out that Urushihara is actually living with them.
Yeah.
And their punishment for him was essentially trying to make him figure out how to gain magic to go back.
He's their internet gremlin. He's the guy who does all of their research for them. Because he's the only one who can figure out the internet. He's
their IT.
Yeah.
I actually love episode 7, I think it was, where LCL says, like, oh, Urushihara and those interwebs. Like, that damn interweb. Like, that was brilliant. So
I think it's in this one, where, yes, they actually reference the series of tubes.
Which part?
I think it's now references the series of tubes line from years ago. Some senator said the internet isn't like a truck; it's like a series of tubes.
Oh, yes.
Now references that. I loved it.
I think it's when he's talking about how Urushihara buys all the stuff online, and then he's like talking about how they figure out how it works or something.
Yeah.
And he's saying like it's like a box of tubes, something like that. I want to find out exactly, but yeah, I love that whole part. And then they're explaining how they don't really have to worry about Urushihara because he essentially just buys everything online.
Yeah, he lives in. He's basically turned into me. He lives in front of a computer and buys things.
I live in an island, so okay. One of my my moonlight jobs is I'm a concierge, right? And people ask me like, "Oh, where do you buy things on the island? Like, where do I go for shopping?" And I look at them, and they're just like, "Well, where do you go?" And I go, on my phone, on the internet. Like, I don't know what else to tell you. They're like, "But where's the mall? Like, I saw a mall coming in here." I was like, "You did? Really? You saw a mall? Please tell me where you saw the mall because I want to go."
I couldn't live like that. I'm from Jersey. It's mall central here. The whole mall hair thing is a Jersey reference.
Yeah, but I still don't actually like. I like the mall because I just like the idea of the mall. I don't really like the mall though. I like shopping online. That's my thing because sometimes I'm like, it's gonna work, or no, it's not going to work. So anyway,
Yeah.
tangent over.
Back to Devil's a part-timer. Episode 6. I liked that Emmy called out Mao on Lucifer living with them
Yes.
because it's again such a trope. But at least they call themselves out on this one. She basically says, what is this? One more person living in this little apartment.
It's like how many people are going to live in this apartment?
Although I really have to call them out on this one because this episode did have a gag that I really thought was in bad taste.
Which one?
The picture of the landlady. The landlady nailed them this photo of herself in a bikini, and it makes them all sick. I thought that was really cheap.
Okay, well,
one little thing,
Let's think of it this way. Maybe it wasn't like a she's ugly type of thing, because remember, we don't know if she's actually from Earth.
Right.
So she might not be from the human world.
That's okay. That's a good point. We only see the little
bell.
Mm-hmm. Perhaps.
Like when they and okay, I actually like this. One thing that I like is like this begins LCL's like stomach issues.
Yes, yes. Which becomes a running gag.
Yes, I actually really love that for whatever reason. Like he's such a badass general, but like food and him are just not friends, like at all.
And the first time we see him, he's eating a convenience store pork bowl. So, which is effectively,
I think it caught up to him. That's what I think. It eventually caught up to him, and at this point, his stomach just can't eat the garbage out of his.
Right. I mean, effectively, that the American equivalent is like the convenience store hot dog, which nobody should ever eat.
What is in the convenience store hot dog?
Probably worse stuff than is in most hot dogs, and that's just mind-boggling. Actually, I think the joke is the reason it's such a terror is not so much of what's in it, but because of how old it could be.
Oh yeah. Well, it kind of goes to the whole like LCL was saying how what is it, Super Size Me from like episode 1. He's like, oh, this isn't Super Size Me, or what is this, Super Size Me, because of all the fast food
because that's what's cheap.
So maybe this is the reaction of his body
to all of the
all the fast food that he's been eating for the like last however long Mao's been working there.
Although this one, there doesn't seem to be much of a time jump in this episode. Later they say it's been like 2 months since the episode 5.
Yeah.
I don't know how much time has gone past in 6.
I don't know either. Like what they haven't done or what they didn't do is like intersperse those like information bars that you can know like 2 months past or whatever.
In 7 or 8, Emmy says it's been about 2 months.
Oh, okay. Since the fight?
Yeah, ever since the battle, it's been 2 months. She says that in episode 7.
Oh, okay, that makes sense then.
But at some point in 6, Lucifer finds out that there is this mass of energy from basically demonic energy in the high school that Shiho goes to.
Yes.
So they decide to chase it down because they're still trying to find a source of power. And they don't know it's Shiho's high school until they get there, and she sticks her head out the window. Very nice seeing her in her uniform. Gotta say that. But
I love what her friend says. Her classmate, like, oh, that's his roommate. Like, do they sleep in the same bed?
Oh yeah, she goes completely Yari on it.
I love that. That was awesome. It was really, really funny. And I really like in this episode as it goes on and everything, and then there's like all this spookiness or whatever, it actually freaks out Satan.
Mm-hmm. Well, that school has a lot of weird phenomena. There's a statue that gets an eye fold, another one that wanders the hallways, there's random blood.
Right. I mean, but for me, what cracks me up the most is like, again, like I hate to like keep going back to it, but it's just the fact that Mao is just as human.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, last episode is that he said that he's like, damn these human bodies, like they're, vulnerable to everything. And it's funny because even his personality is more human. Like he has a fear of the school and he's freaked out too. Just like Emmy, the hero, is freaked out as well, even though, they're badasses from another world. Like, it's pretty funny that they're freaked out by, some high school ghost stories.
Yeah, effectively. And I love the bit where they say that there are 7 unexplained mysteries in the school, and they list off 6 of them, and Shiho says, "Well, nobody knows all 7 because if you know all 7, you're dead."
Yeah. One thing I also love about this episode is Urushihara is in the back, actually back at the apartment, and he is just hanging out, buying his Amazon, playing his video games. He's actually upset because I think he bought a computer and like the computer wasn't.
Mal used the little money they had to buy a computer, and it wasn't quite up to the specs that Lucifer wanted.
Because he wanted to play video games, and he's like, "Come on, really?" And then
he wanted to play games. Yeah.
And then, go ahead.
I feel his pain there. I'm dealing with a 4-year-old laptop.
You said you feel his pain?
Yeah, I understand. I have a 4-year-old laptop now. Before, the computer I had before this was like 5 years old. I sympathize.
Yeah, well, the funny thing is that Lucifer is staying in Mao's house, being fed.
Yeah, and he's complaining about the computer.
Spending their money.
Yeah.
And he's complaining about the laptop that he's been bought. Like that for me was hilarious. I love that, especially since like an episode ago, Lucifer was being a dick.
Yeah, the complete badass. Yeah. So they go to the school and they investigate this energy or this actually wasn't even like an energy reading. It was a rumor of this sort of activity at the school. They're investigating it, and they end up in a room that looks kind of boarded up, but it wasn't. Things were just placed in the way. And they see, and then the whole sequence of them going through the school was effectively like a Scooby-Doo episode.
Yeah.
It was, very kind of cheesy, spooky stuff.
I was totally thinking of Scooby-Doo, for sure.
They get to this room that looked boarded up but wasn't, and they see this game console, this little handheld console in the corner. And now was on the phone with Urushihara. Yeah. And he says, "Is there a Game Boy effectively on the floor?" Yeah, bring it home. Urushihara tells him. Come to find out that that's where he and Oba came through the portal.
Right.
He was just basically having them find it again so that he could get back or get a power source.
Well, also, and of course Mal gets upset because Mal's like, really? That's the whole reason why you had us go to the school and like do all this stuff is because you wanted us to pick up your Game Boy? Like that. He's like, I'm gonna kill you. But Urushihara brings up something that is actually really relevant, and it foreshadows the next episode, as well. Actually, the end of this episode, where Urushihara says, "Well, hey, that's where we entered. That's where we hung out. That was where our like base of operations was." So, but you never know. Maybe the portal's still open, and maybe somebody else came through. But what ended up, Mao is like, all right, whatever, we're gonna go. And when they're leaving the school, they Chiho, Velma. I was thinking of Velma actually.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I was thinking of Velma.
The short
So,
skirt and everything.
huh?
The short with the skirt and everything. I can see it.
Yeah, exactly. I was thinking, oh, Velma. So, so Chiho sees a package of udon noodles that's just like there, and she's like, oh,
Oh, I didn't connect that.
really?
Well,
Yeah,
because
now
we didn't know the relevance of it yet, and I'd forgotten about it by the time we did.
yeah, so there's like when they're coming out of the school, Chiho's like, oh, udon is just hanging out here. That's strange. So, and then Mao is coming home. He's like went to work, whatever. Or I think it was that he went to work. I'm trying to remember, but
Yeah,
anyway.
he's coming home from wherever.
Yeah.
And he sees this woman in a kimono walking up the steps to the apartment, and then she falls, and he catches her. And she effectively falls, goes unconscious, and that's the end of the episode.
So I love this running gag of falling down the stairs.
Yeah.
This happens to
Emmy pretty much every time.
Yes, Emmy, and like I love that that's the way that we're introduced to Susanoo, the new character. Mm-hmm. And I just think it's really funny because as badass as these people are, like Mao is like, really, Emmy, you're the hero, but you can't walk stairs. Like,
well, they say he has that line about curse this frail human body.
Yeah.
They make it very clear that he and LCL have undergone physical changes when they came over. Clearly, Emmy has as well. Hers aren't as visually apparent, but she's clearly not as in control of her facilities as she presumably was on the other side.
Just like LCL has no control over his like digestive issues. So okay, that said, let's go into episode 7. Episode 7, we see that LCL is sick.
Yeah, and Susanoo, the neighbor who fell down the stairs, is basically cooking for them and taking care of them now.
And Susanoo makes udon noodles, like that's her thing.
She has entire boxes, cases full of udon noodles.
I was thinking to myself when I watched this, I was like, yo, Susanoo, man, like, send some my way. I want some udon noodles. Like, that right there, I wanted to eat it. It looks so good.
And pretty much from her introduction, I just had a feeling she was from Ente Isla.
Yeah. How did you, like, figure?
Random person showing up, sniffing around the apartment. She's got to be one of them.
Of course, yeah. That would be that would be the only reason why she would be there, right?
Yeah.
I love that Emmy is all confused as to what's going on. Yeah. And Emmy is once again playing that tsundere character where at the same time she's also jealous and at the same time she's like, wait a second, now there's more people in this house? How did that happen?
Although I am getting a little tired of the constant assumptions about her and Mao. The gag is getting a little tiring for me at this point.
Well, yeah. I mean, I kind of feel like at this point, it's turning into a harem.
A little bit, yeah. Surprised I'm not the one who called it on that, but you're right. I'm surprised I'm not the one who complained about that, but you're right.
Yes! I'm the one who called it. But yeah, like I was thinking because there's Chiho, which Chiho is like head over heels for Mao.
Yeah.
Then there is Emmy, and even though Emmy doesn't admit it, like she definitely has a thing for Mao, but maybe not necessarily in the romantic sense. But definitely she has a major affinity
for him. Yeah.
And now there's Susanoo.
Yeah.
And I mean, the first way that we meet Susanoo, she's being rescued by Mao, which is hilarious because especially because she's coming, from where she comes from. So, anyhow,
and then later there's a scene between her and Emmy, and Emmy kind of gets the impression that Susanoo has an interest in Mao. we've come to find out later that it was a misunderstanding. But yeah, that's what kind of makes it start to look like a bit of a harem.
Yeah.
There was a
I love
plot
that
point.
Emmy picks that like big sister role for Chiho and for
Yeah.
Susanoo, where she's like,
Yeah.
listen, you know, you really don't want to be into Mao. He's not really what he seems. And it's funny because for her to say that and like who she is, you know, how can she be the one to choose for somebody? So,
And was this the one? Was it this episode where she makes him the bento box? Or was that the next one?
I think it's the next one if I remember correctly.
Okay.
But yeah, this is where where Emmy just falls down and she gets taken care of.
It's in 7. I just checked Wikipedia.
Oh, it is
Loved
in 7.
Chiho's
Oh,
reaction.
you're right. Yeah. So I love that. I love
She
that.
completely loses her shit.
Huh?
Chiho just completely loses her shit over this and just rants at Mao.
There was no earthquake though.
Yeah, that's true. You're right. Okay, maybe I was wrong about that.
So, I mean, I think it goes now to what we know, what with the earthquakes were happening, and I mean that whole part kind of stopped. You know, at least in the interim, up to this point, there's no earthquakes, there's no more muggings, there's no more like crazy drama in the.
Well, because Lucifer and Oba have been stopped.
Right.
And at least all the other stuff. We don't know about the earthquakes, but all the other stuff was them.
Yes.
Except for an attack in this episode, but I'm going to roll back a bit before then. There was a subplot that faked me out. Early in the episode, Emmy is on the phone with Esmeralda. Somehow across the portal, they're talking on the phone.
Right? Because they're like, oh yeah, totally. Let me just sit here and talk on my phone, even though like you're like way in another dimension.
At first, I thought maybe Esmeralda had stayed over on this side, but then later they show her no, she's in the Isla and on the phone with Emmy.
Are you talking about when she made the bottle of
Yeah, that's what I'm getting to. Is she makes her this a celestial power in the form of an energy drink and sends her a full case of it, and tells her whatever you do, don't drink more than 2 in a day. One in the morning, one at night. If you miss one, you can't double up. And she's giving her a very careful warning.
It's like birth control pill or something.
I was so sure Emmy was going to overdose. They were setting that gag up so clearly.
She was in an overdose?
I was sure she was going to end up overdosing on it. She didn't. I was surprised because they were making. Esmeralda was so clear about the warning. It just looked like they were foreshadowing, an accidental overdose.
Yeah.
But he only drinks the one, and this leads to, and later in the episode, she gets attacked. There's another attacker.
Yes.
In a convenience store. And so she has to pull out the sword again, outside the convenience store, take on this attacker, who is driven away by the clerk with a couple of paint-filled water balloons.
I love that.
Great choice of weapons.
Yeah. I thought that was really interesting, and I like how they introduced this new villain character, and especially like the fact that Emmy is she was kind of in a not really depressed state, but like in a more like kind of just over it, maybe even kind of lonely. I think it was because she was like sitting there, she was like every night the same dinner, the same this, the same that, and she's like going through the motions, almost like she was looking for something exciting. She was looking for something to happen.
It also could explain her constant comments about how many people are living at Mao's house.
Yeah.
She's got all these people and all this action going on in one place, and she's living somewhere else away from it alone.
Yeah. And especially now that Susanoo is in the middle of it all, like she's like, that's, I think she was okay if it's boys, but now there's like another girl, and so she's like, hey, but what about me? Like, And Chiho, I loved Chiho's reaction to Susanoo making the bento box.
Because she makes now this bento box, he brings it to work, he's opening it, and he's explaining to her that she made it, and you could just see you could see the wheels turning. And then she's asking
her eyes go moe. Like her eyes do the wheels and go
Yeah.
mow it completely.
And she's asking him all these questions. She finally says, "Let me see the bottom. Let me see the bottom." He pulls it up. There's this heart made out of rice. And he just completely loses it. And that's when I officially fell in love. Well, that's when I started to fall in love with Chiho. The beginning of the next episode, she's nearing Mamimi at this point.
Really?
We'll get to why in the next episode.
All right.
But I just loved her reaction to the bento because she wasn't even sad. It wasn't a scream, run away, or try to hold back like she'd done in the past. She just screamed at him.
Yeah. I love that. That was brilliant. And then is it in this episode where she actually goes to Mao's house and she finds Susanoo there cooking, and then she's like, holy crap, this girl's like a really amazing chef. I'm going to learn from her.
I think that was the next one. I think that's a bit of a subplot in the next one.
Oh, oops.
Yeah.
So, episode 7, after Emmy fights this character, and she goes back, and I think she tells Mao about it, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
And then
because it's a new threat.
Yes. And then I don't remember exactly how it ended.
And he receives a call from Chiho, about the bento box. Wondering, talking to Mao about who the masked person was, and Emmy gets a call from Chiho about the bento box, which was a nice head fake because she thought that there was some question of who the masked assailant had gone after, and she's worried who are they going to go after next, and she gets a call from Chiho all upset and crying, and it turns out it's about the bento box.
Yes. And then I think that was it.
Yeah, I think then we're on to 8.
Yeah, so now we go into 8 where we open up with what now? I can't remember.
Chiho and Emmy visit Mao's apartment, surprised to find Susanoo still helping.
Yes. Okay, so that's when Chiho finds Susanoo.
Realizes that she's this amazing cook and decides to train with her.
Yes. And she's just like, oh my god, you make amazing food. I need to learn how to make food like you. And
it's not to impress Mao or anything. It's just because she wants to learn. Right.
And also, something I love about Susanoo's character is she's very monotone.
Yeah.
She's very robotic. So she's talking. She's like, "Good day, Mr. Mao," something like that. Like she talks very.
She's very formal, and she only wears a kimono, and she's sort of. I get the impression that she was studying films and Japanese culture from about 100 years before she came over.
Is this the episode where Emmy takes her shopping?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, perfect. So Susanoo actually decides that she's going to get closer to Emmy. And she tells Emmy, because actually I think Emmy asked her, like, do you have any other clothes? Do you have a job? Like, what are you doing here? Type of thing, And she's like, oh, I come from this very rural family in this rural town outside of the city, and I've never been in the city, and I have no idea what I'm doing. Blah blah blah. And Emmy is like, oh, I feel like a big sister. I'm going to take you under my wing and make you feel better about life or whatever. And she says, okay, well, let's go shopping and let's hang out. And, I'll kind of help you out here. And Emmy is just kind of thinking to herself, this girl's not really normal.
Yeah, there's something off about her, which we've noticed for 2 episodes now.
Right. But Emmy is a little slow on the uptake. So, and Chiho actually grows close to Susanoo as well.
Yeah.
So it becomes this girl time, whatever.
And they kind of make peace with the fact that they both like Mao.
I don't
And
think
actually,
he made
Chiho makes peace with it. Because Chiho has one of the best speeches I've ever heard. This is when I officially fell in love with her. Mao is
which
walking her home. Early in the episode, Mao is walking her home after training with Susanoo, and she basically says, she confesses her feelings to him, and says
yeah.
it's okay if you don't feel the same way. It's not going to change how I feel about you.
Yeah, that's right.
I just loved that speech.
Yeah, because Chiho is having a good time, enjoying, being around Mao, being with Emmy, meeting Susanoo, hanging out with Alciel, even Lucifer. She gets along with. So for Chiho, I actually feel like it's more like we're audience-wise, we're almost like part of Chiho. Like we're just having a good time along with everyone else.
To me, she's always been the audience perspective character.
Yeah, for sure. And I also think with Chiho that she, like for instance, Mao, was it last episode, fifth episode, where he says, "Hey, I have enough magic left." After he fixed the city, I forgot to mention that he fixed the city, because he decided, like LCL even told him, like, "Hey, what are you doing? Why would you do that?" And he's like, "Listen, I like, I want to make things right. Like, I don't want to leave it this way." And then I love that he also was like, if you make me late to work, like I'm gonna get you back or something to Lucifer.
Yeah.
And for him, he's like, if you screw up my perfect attendance, like that's what's important to him. It's not about taking over necessarily. About keeping things nice and orderly and this and that. So, and I think it's funny because at the end of episode 5. He goes to Chiho and he says, "Hey, I still have enough magic left that I can erase your memory." And she's like, gets really upset with him, like, "Why would you do that? Like, I don't want you to do that, And so that also kind of, like you said, she's really the audience perspective of the show.
Yeah.
So in episode 8, we have yet another introduction to another company who is the rival, if you will, real life rival to McDonald's.
Right across the street from McDonald's, we have Kentucky Fried Chicken.
But that's so realistic. Like,
absolutely.
If you think about it, like it's so realistic for like Starbucks, right? And then on the other side, Dunkin' Donuts.
Right.
Like right across.
I just get a kick out of how little effort they put into changing names. McDonald's, Kentucky Fried Chicken.
I love that it's called Kentucky Fried Chicken. Like it's brilliant because you really don't have to stretch very much to figure out what they're talking about.
Of course.
So now I remember Mao was talking to his boss, and his boss was like, "Hey, we're gonna make you assistant manager because you're awesome."
Shift manager, yes. I think that's in 7. He's made a shift manager now. He's got more responsibility at work.
And this episode is the first time he's actually enacting his shift manager position.
Right.
So in this episode, he is realizing that, holy crap, we have a competitor on the other side, and they're actually taking away all of our customers. Right. So we need to do something.
They show, toward the end of the episode, they show him and Chiho at the registers and no customers.
Yep.
And then they cut the door into the Kentucky Fried Chicken, and it's just packed. Right. And in walks this guy with blue hair, sunglasses, this Don Johnson style suit. Yeah. Walks up to the counter and starts talking to Mao about. I think he was basically trying to get him to come over to switch sides.
He's like, switch to my side. And it's funny. Okay, so I'm gonna try not be a spoiler out about this, but having watched this is my 3rd time watching this, so it's so funny that when we figure out, like, he's like, "Oh, come to my side," that sort of thing. when we get to it, I'll come back to this. But anyway.
I got the impression that the blue, I can't think of his name. Oh, Mitsuki something or other. I just thought of Wikipedia.
Yeah.
I get the impression he's not from Earth, or not from our reality.
Maybe.
Okay. I just got that feeling.
Yeah.
He has one of the funniest lines to Chiho, though, because he's talking to Mao. Doesn't even see her.
Oh my god, yes. I love how he hits on Chiho.
And suddenly, I don't know what, she said something or something. She caught his attention, and he just completely sidesteps. His leg grows about 2 feet. He just completely sidesteps over in front of her and says, "Sexy princess," which damn near put me on the ground.
Oh my god. Okay, as a moonlight position that I have, that is the funniest thing. Like when somebody like does something like that to you, like you feel like you like you feel dirty, like you just want to wash yourself, like especially like because I think he like kissed her hand or something, and and Chiho's like body went like, but not in a oh my god so awesome sort of way, but more of a like, oh, I need to go shower.
They have given her some of the best reactions.
I love that.
The way they animate her. When she first sees Susanoo in the apartment, she just starts babbling, and I just love the way her face is animated because she's just talking without any sound. Another shot, they do the whole crosshatch thing when she's about, completely shocked about something.
Yeah, she's a great like to watch for reaction wise.
Her and LCL are officially now my favorites.
I love LCL. LCL's got a great character. I actually think I kind of really love everybody in this show. Emmy sometimes really annoys me.
Yeah.
But
she can get irritating. Mao's interesting, but he's the lead by definition. He's got to be kind of bland.
Yeah, but I think they could do a spin-off show just of Chiho, Lucifer, and LCL.
That would be interesting. Yeah.
How awesome would that be if it was just like, it's like what is it? The really old show that like they're roommates or something, and it's 2 guys and a girl or something like that.
Girl and a guy, Three's Company.
Yes.
That old?
Huh?
Not that old.
Well.
But yeah, the Three's Company kind of spin with those 3 would be hilarious.
Yeah, like that would be awesome. It'd be like the odd couple, but couple, something like that. Okay.
Now there's a subplot we didn't mention. Susanoo and Emmy get to talking, and Susanoo reveals that she's from Enta Isla, and she's with the church, and she's come there to basically check on her to find out why she hasn't taken out Satan yet. And Emmy surprised me by saying that she's effectively turning against the church. She's turning against her orders. Yeah.
Well, again, it's a whole turning everything on its head concept. Like we're going to go from being very, black and white, very like everything is right or everything is wrong, and it's ultimate to gray. Like Mao is not nearly as bad as
he was on Enta Isla.
Yeah. Emmy is not nearly as good as she was in Enta Isla, and that's part of because of her observation of how Mao's acting. One of the things that I really think is funny is that, anyway, actually, I'm not going to say it, but because I realize now it's a spoiler thing. So,
but if you go back to the first episode when they're explaining the point of the war, he was just trying to make a place for his people.
Yeah.
Mao wasn't really a bad guy. He was just looking out for his people and trying to give them a place in that world.
Yeah.
And these humans were going after him for it.
But at the same time, Emmy's father was killed.
Well, we didn't see that, but with the flashback, he was still alive when she was taken away. But yeah, I think it was to
and her hometown was killed. was destroyed.
When she sees Lucifer, she says, "I killed you. I even did the whole 'you killed my father' thing."
Yes. So I think that is really interesting because Mao, the question is, was Mao really a bad guy in Enta Isla?
That's what I'm getting at. Is, his generals may have been a little out of control. I get the impression Lucifer definitely was, but he was really just looking out for his people, like he's doing now.
And another funny thing is episode 6 when he's eating beef intestines, and he's saying how he, I would think that it's something out of a regular, like he would eat that kind of.
Yeah. Well, there was a line about. I know what they've always been talking about.
Exactly, and I thought that was really interesting.
Something about but now I always know why they want to eat entrails or something like that.
Yeah, which is really interesting because I mean, again, going back to the whole Satan, like that he eats whatever type of thing, So that's why I thought that was all very interesting, especially now that Susanoo is in the mix. And Susanoo is like, well, I'm acting on the orders of the church to figure out what the hell is going on because you were supposed to kill Satan, and now you're hanging out with him and teaming up with him, and what's going on here?
And Emmy's being good in Enta Isla really just boiled down to an advanced capacity for violence.
She was serving the organization that was telling her what to do.
She was an effective killer. That's why she was good.
She was just a tool. But look at Susanoo. Susanoo is just a tool as well.
Yeah.
I mean, Susanoo, I don't think Susanoo realizes that.
Right, yeah.
And Emmy does.
That was the turn. Is Emmy realized that she was being used effectively.
Exactly. And Emmy's like, you know what? I'm not going to do that because here he's done nothing to provoke or to make me think that he's a bad guy. So why?
Right.
Going back to episode 8, one thing that I really loved also, and going back to this, is how does Mao resolve the issue that Kentucky Fried Chicken has all of its customers, McDonald's customers are at Kentucky Fried Chicken. So how does he resolve the issue? At first, he tries to do coupons. He tries to go a very traditional kind of route. But what really works is pulling something that is of a good, emotional, heartfelt kind of motive, And I love that montage that we get where Mao is not just a good guy at work, but he's also a freaking really good guy in life because he's going to pick up garbage on the weekends with like these people and just hanging out with them. And, he uses one of those contests. He's like, hey, can I get some bamboo trees because this is a festival time at this time of the year? And
I think you might be bleeding into another episode because this does not sound familiar at all.
Oh, sorry.
And the next episode, the summary of the next episode did say something about a festival.
Oh. Oops, sorry.
I thought I just forgotten something, and then you mentioned the festival. And
no. I like I said, that's why you have to stop me because I watched it 3 times. So, but I don't know where I.
I understand completely.
Necessarily, So, is there anything else?
I think that covers episode 8.
Cool. So let's talk a little bit about Spring Simulcast.
I'm caught up on Can't Understand, Gunslinger Stratus, Recon, Wrong to Pick Up Girls in the Dungeon, and Plastic Memories.
All right. So far, I haven't gotten all of them. I have I Can't Understand.
New episode came out today, by the way.
Yes. I'm gonna watch it after. But I'm caught up on Plastic Memories, which let me just start off by saying an anime that in the first episode puts you on the feels train. Whoa.
Yeah.
Like,
Probably my favorite of all of the ones I've seen so far.
absolutely. For me, I got teary-eyed. I was not expecting it at all. Like, it goes from being kind of cutesy android girls to it gets very serious very quickly, which I really like.
It's the service where it's set in at some unspecified point in the future, where there are androids now, sentient androids, who've been
Yeah,
quote
they're
unquote
called
given a soul.
graphitas, if I remember correctly.
Gifty,
Giffitas or something like, yeah. So yeah, so
they've been
and
given a soul, as they put it, basically sentience and emotions, and they only live for 9 and change years.
yeah.
And so when their time expires, this service, terminal retrieval, I think it was,
Yeah, terminal retrieval.
has to go and shut them down effectively, retrieve their body and shut down their programming, and they're
And
fully conscious.
and the reason why they have to shut them down is because their personalities and essentially will
Memories.
disappear,
Yeah.
and all of their memories will disappear,
Mm-hmm.
and they will stop being the sentient beings that they are.
Mm-hmm.
So they have to they have to terminate their programs.
Mm-hmm. And it's totally a software thing. They say we can. At one point, the main character, whose name escapes me right now, says we can put a new person. We can put a new personality in the same body if you'd like.
Which,
so it's just a software thing.
I think I really, okay, so I love how this episode starts. I love how we get this like kind of almost slapstick bit going on, and then
a bit of slapstick throughout the episode, which was very nicely done.
Right, and then it shifts pretty quickly into, because he doesn't really know what job he got. He doesn't really know what his job is. He's just kind of like, oh, okay, I got this job, and they're like, do you even know what you're going to be doing? And it doesn't really hit him until he goes on the first job, and they explain to him that they say, hey, we have enhanced negotiation skills. So, because he's like, oh, is this going to be bad? Do I need to worry? They're like, no, we're going to handle it. So the one character, Zach, or he calls himself Zach, I think, the little boy, Giftius, he goes up to this house where there are these two, like an elderly couple, and he says, oh, I'm here. Is Big Brother there? And so he goes and he gets him, and the elderly couple knows what's going on. The Giftias knows what's going on. So everybody's very aware and very, I mean, it's kind of like, what is this word? Oh, euthanasia.
Yeah, effectively.
That's what it is. It's euthanasia for these android beings. So, and everybody's aware of it. And as they said, like, the owners have to be present, and they have to do it specifically on that day, because if not within, I think it's 12 hours.
There's time to get them before the programming expires and all disintegrates.
Yeah.
And I'm waiting to find out what happens when the programming disintegrates, because they have to do that at least once.
Well, one thing that I think, which I think is really interesting, is if you notice Isla or Isla or whatever. I
think Isla.
Isla.
Or Ilsa. Ilsa. I think it's Ilsa.
Elsa or Ilsa, something.
Ilsa, I think.
She is having.
She's an android. She's a Giftius who's teamed with our main character.
Right, and she is really good at her job, but she has issues.
She glitches in very unusual ways here and there.
And
I think she is very close to her expiration.
I think so too. The first time. Go ahead.
When we see her, she's serving tea. She's not out in the field. She's effectively been retired, and her workload has been reduced. And because they don't have a Giftius to team him with, she's pulled back into service. And when they first show her in the elevator, he sees her in the elevator, he kind of falls for her. because the Githyanks look just like humans.
When he sees her in the elevator, and this is where I don't know if, by the way, if anybody hasn't seen this, like, it's major spoilers, so don't watch this. Sorry, I should have said this.
I don't think there's really anything you can spoil in the first episode. There's no real big surprises.
Well, yeah, I think if you went in this maybe not knowing that it's going to be like a gut-wrenching, right off the bat, you know?
Right.
Like, it's kind of like if you don't expect to watch Game of Thrones and you have no idea that the main character
is going to die, and there are certain deaths you don't want spoiled in Game of Thrones.
Absolutely. Unfortunately, oops, sorry, I just broke that for you. So,
well, did you? I didn't know if you mentioned the name. I was talking over you, so hopefully it didn't go across.
For who?
No, I don't know if you mentioned. Yeah, major characters die in Game of Thrones. I don't know if you mentioned names, but everyone knows that.
No. So
I'm not mentioning names.
Right. My really big thing that I loved about Plastic Memories is the way we get introduced to our main couple, which is our male character and his giftias is in the elevator.
Yeah, he gets into an elevator, sees her there, and he immediately falls for her because she looks human and she's beautiful, but she's crying.
That's what I loved, is that she's looking out over the city, and it's a stunning, by the way, the art in this is fucking beautiful, like absolutely gorgeous, and I love the colors.
Hey, the artwork is really interesting in this one because the backgrounds are photorealistic, but the characters look very drawn.
Yes.
And Capellion did something very similar, and it kind of threw me at first. Eventually, I learned to really like it. So, and I think I'll get used to it in this one. It's just that contrast always strikes me. It was a little odd.
I thought it was absolutely gorgeous, especially when they're in the elevator and she's looking out over the city, and she's just so. As somebody who really loves to travel, like when you're in a situation or you're in a place that you really are just enjoying that moment, you know, and where you're looking out over and seeing the world and appreciating the beauty that's there, it can, you know, be very moving, you know, or it can be moving for anybody, not just for somebody who travels, you know, but when you're in that situation and you're looking out and you're seeing, and it could also be bittersweet, because if you know that you're leaving somewhere, or you know that it's going to be terminated, you know, or there's going to be a situation where it's going to end, you know, that is very moving, you know, and that's kind of what I felt was the clear moment of what we're seeing.
I didn't understand it at the time, obviously, because we don't know enough, but as soon as they mentioned the life expectancy, and we haven't confirmed this yet.
Yeah.
But I got the distinct impression that that's why she was crying.
Well, remember when he and like I was thinking about this. Remember when he met her, and he even tells her, he's like, "Hey, I saw you in the elevator," and she says, "Error, memory unknown," or "Error, unknown."
I don't understand what you're. Can you repeat that?
Right, like unknown process or unknown command or something like that.
He basically says, "I don't understand what you're saying." Error.
Right. So there's like something that she tries to wipe out of her mind, type of thing. Yeah. Now, one thing I really also want to say is that this is from the creators of Steins Gate.
Oh, okay. So good pedigree.
I believe so. I can look it up real quick, but I'm about 90% sure that it is. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So,
that's a good sign, because I know I've seen Chaos Head, or I've seen most of Chaos Head, and from what I know about Steins Gate, they tend to like overarching storylines.
Oh, Steins Gate is my top. It's I think my number 2 or number 3 favorite anime, and it's really hard for me to do that because I was actually thinking about this the other day. How do you decide what's going to be your number 2, your number 3, your number 5? Like, there's so many different types of anime and so many different stories.
I just compulsively make lists. It's just the way my brain works. So I always have that, top 5 of everything.
Yeah, I can't. I just rather put everything like in a big pile and just be like, these are my favorites,
Uh-huh.
all of them, all of them.
I
I
have
love
to rank things.
them.
I've recently revamped my top 10 favorite music artists. It's a thing I do compulsively. But I'm glad to know that it's the creators of Steins Gate because they tend to like overarching storylines, from what I understand. And that's my one concern about Plastic Memories because I love the concept. But this could get very episodic, which would get a little boring. If they give us a nice overarching storyline, I will be in love with this show.
I want to see what happens with it for sure. So you got caught up on I Can't Understand What My...
I was going to say yes. Including today's episode, which was really nice. I've noticed they forgot about the kid. Because she had a kid at the end of last season.
She had taken a pregnancy test.
Well, didn't they deliver? Didn't they go all the way through? I thought he or she, I don't remember, was born. But either way, she was, okay, maybe she was just pregnant. Which explains why they haven't referenced it in the 2 episodes we've seen so far.
I don't know. I'm not sure exactly.
Okay. It's easy enough. I'll just rewatch the last one.
Yeah, I really like this episode though because one of the things that was really cool to me was the road trip down memory lane. Yeah, I can't talk.
She says to her husband she wants to go to ramen at this place where her senpai took her in high school. And then they walk through her neighborhood, and we find out that, this one place is now going to be a coffee shop, and there's a playground, but at this one spot there, or didn't used to be, but there's still this hole in the wall that her senpai created.
Yeah.
And then her senpai took down a tree and then ran through another wall. And then we find out her senpai was a woman.
Yes.
Because I hear senpai, I assume male.
Well, not always.
Well, yeah, it's just an assumption I tend to make. When a woman says senpai, it's the cliche.
Well, true. What I really liked about that episode in particular is that it also it continues to feed to the more I want to say mature.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I find that I Can't Understand What My Husband says is a more mature anime. It's more of a like a emotion, but it's not emotion in the sense of like
it never gets maudlin. They always give you a joke and a quick gag to pull it back from that.
Right. But at the same time, it's definitely not like a Naruto or Bleach or it doesn't have any of that appeal, So for me personally, I enjoy it because A, it's short, and B, it's amazing. It goes to show how amazing an anime can be in such a short period of time.
Yes. And they really seem to be focusing on her this season. Both episodes so far have been really centered on the wife.
Yes, and I thought that's you saw the one today?
Yeah.
Oh no! I wanted to see it.
Really nice. The ending is beautiful. Effectively, she's obsessing over their compatibility, and she starts talking about astrology and all of these other ways of finding out how compatible they are, and they don't match at all. Which, big surprise. We've spent an entire season talking about how they don't match.
Yeah, but that's also funny because that's the beautiful thing about being with somebody is that you don't necessarily match, know. And then you learn a lot more about a person. You learn more about yourself too when you're with somebody who doesn't really match you.
Mm-hmm.
So I Can't Understand What My Husband says. So what do you think of is it wrong to pick up girls in a dungeon?
Another case where it could be very episodic, it could be very light, could be very harem-y, which has me a little concerned. Overall, I like it. I love how they worked the MMO, not MMO, but the RPG mechanic into the story. They've covered all of these.
I told you that it's got that feel to it.
Oh yeah, they covered all of the game mechanics and they made them work within the story. You mentioned the tattoo; it kind of went over my head last time because I hadn't seen it. But I love how, because that's how they get it. They work his stats in through this tattoo that his goddess reads.
That I thought was really genius.
Yeah.
That's I've never seen. I don't know. I haven't played games in a while, but I haven't seen a game where you have a tattoo and it's like your goddess or your analyst. I don't know. She can figure out your level up and everything.
The only case where I've seen any of that stuff tried to work in was Dead Space, where you had this sort of lifeline, this sort of thing on your back, which was your life meter. You have to have it on the character. But aside from that, it's always been a mechanic of the game, and they've never tried to really work it in. I loved that about it. Slightly haremy. They've only got the two, which isn't exactly haremy at this point. But the woman who runs the pub was kind of flirting with him, so I'm hoping that doesn't turn into a third.
Yeah. One thing I actually liked about the show is the idea that there's these different families, and different families denote different levels of skill, as well as different levels of power and position.
And
so
sort of different.
where that play comes in.
And it sort of seems like different approaches too, kind of like the Hogwarts houses or the different divergent all of the different groups. It's we don't really get the sense of what his is. He's the only follower of his goddess. But what was the name of the other group that the woman he fell for was in?
I think it was Loki.
Loki, that's it.
Yeah,
they
Loki.
Came kind of
Hestia Familia.
Hestia was his. Thank you. We don't see what Hestia is about, but I get the impression Loki is kind of feral and very aggressive.
Yeah, especially from the team. Did you feel like it was very? To me, it had a lot of Sword Art Online.
Oh yeah.
Like very.
I play World of Warcraft. I've played several other MMOs. They really hit every aspect, and they really made it feel like a fantasy role-playing game.
Dude,
you did a beautiful job with that.
The next anime we're doing, because I've already announced it, and I'm calling, my birthday was last month, but Welcome to NHK.
Yeah.
There's a part in Welcome to NHK which is phenomenal, and it's an MMORPG part, and it is great. And I actually thought to myself, like, oh look, it's like it's this game, because very, very similar parts, like in terms of the monsters, but
and all the MMOs are very similar.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's kind of cookie cutter.
Yeah.
But
so I want to see how that develops, and I mean,
as long as it doesn't turn harem, I'm good. I'm gonna enjoy it. And I mean, I'll enjoy it if it turns harem. I can live with a little harem. It just gets a little irritating.
What else have you seen?
I've seen Gunslinger Stratos.
How is it?
It's as interesting, because when I said earlier, my tendency to not be a big action fan is going to come into play with one of the new ones. We're introduced to this dystopian future Japan that's called, I think, Imperial City. Very interesting, Brave New World, a little bit of Gattaca, that kind of government controlled. You're put into the caste system, kind of a thing based on your genes. Really interesting. And then there's this main character who starts off with this dream sequence. And part of it is this little girl writing on the sidewalk in chalk, and this giant equation. Really a nice reference to Paranoia Agent, if it was intentional.
Very cool.
It's this whole dream sequence, and then he wakes up and we find out about this world, and they do a beautiful job with the backstory. He's a student, of course. He's a high school student because it's anime. And his history lesson is how we find out about what the world has become.
Interesting.
And his reaction to one section of it is how we find out about the caste system, and it's really nicely done. And then, and I won't go into detail, but he ends up in this other universe. This kind of mirror version of the future Japan, or possibly a future version of it. And it kind of turns into wall-to-wall action.
Wow, cool.
Because the first half is very, there isn't a lot of action in the first half. It gets very actiony. I'm kind of hoping it's not just going to be wall-to-wall action, and then that we find out a bit more about that universe. But we'll see. That's the only thing I'm a little concerned about. Raycon is beautiful. It completely lives up to its tagline: heartwarming horror comedy.
Cool. I'm in that one's on my list too. I was gonna watch it today, but stupid life.
The only other ones I've seen, Kinmoza and Taku both continue to be great. Kinmoza, Hello Kinmoza, I think is the full name of this current season. Cute girl anime, but it's you know it's a nice chaser after thing, you know, the more actiony stuff. Taku is the one I keep pushing. It's the tennis anime. It's just completely insane.
I actually got to watch the Triage X.
Oh, nice.
Triage X is actually not bad.
Okay.
Okay, so tons and tons of plot on plot on plot on plot.
Okay.
Right? Like plot out to here. Like, you know, can it get any bigger?
I'm hoping that's the thumbnail for this episode.
So that would be awesome. Plot out to here. So that said, I actually like where it could be going.
Okay.
The potential it has.
What's the basic thumbnail? Because they didn't have.
Down. Huh?
What's the basic sketch of the plot? Because they didn't have anything on the Crunchyroll page.
There is a guy who's like an assassin who works for an organization, but he's in high school. And of course,
because it's anime.
And he gets like calls to like work in his organization, blah blah blah, sort of thing. You know, we don't really have a whole lot. There is a
high school assassin. Okay.
Yeah. So, you know, but anime, come on. So, you know, was it the other day I was with my other half and he's like, hey, can we watch something that's not high school anime? And I was like, ooh, that's tough.
So Bebop, Trigun.
Black Cat. We were watching Black Cat, so
okay.
Great. Really, really good. Anyhow, so and yeah, there was another one that we're watching that was high school, but he was able to deal with it. Maji de Watashi ni.
Oh, you were talking about that last time. Yeah.
I think. So anyway, I'll tell you about that afterwards. So, this one is got like the kid who is very, you know, stoic, your typical, you know, guy, this and that, and he has issues with figuring out like human consciousness. And so at the end of episode 1, spoiler, massive, like he's in the shower with one of his colleagues, you know, and she is talking to him and she walks over to his part of the shower and she's like all this like cuts and stuff, right? And what it is that he is a triage of his friend.
Okay.
His friend's body parts have been put onto him.
Oh.
He was in a huge explosion, like a terrorist bombing, and his basically he shielded his best friend. It was like the two of them were playing, and you get that in the beginning of the show, where his two best friends were playing, or like him and his best friend were playing, and then he's like there was this bomb that goes off, and he shields his friend from the explosion, but his friend doesn't make it, so they impose his parts to him, and he's questioning how much of himself is left now. So that part of it, I mean, because up until that, I was like, boobs, boobs, boobs.
Okay.
Action, boobs, boobs.
Fan service in action. Okay.
Ass, boobs, ass. You know, like
kind of what I was expecting from the kind of what I was expecting from the cover art stuff.
Right. I mean, you know, like you've got a chick on a motorcycle with ass and huge. So, you know, so but the end of it was what really made it interesting to me,
Hmm.
because you've got this whole kid who is, piecemealed from
Yeah.
another person,
Hmm.
and he's questioning human consciousness.
Hmm.
And when he goes to kill somebody, he asks them, about their human consciousness. So it's pretty
That
interesting.
so existentialism mixed with fan service in action.
Yeah, I think I would say that. Yeah.
That's fascinating. I'm definitely gonna have to watch that.
Yeah, it's definitely more interesting than I thought it would be. Like I was not expecting the whole triage part,
Hmm.
and which goes to the name, because I was sitting
Yeah.
there like, well, what's the name for? What's the point? Like, because we don't really know very much. Like he goes to this organization and he's part of their fighting team, whatever, their
Hmm.
assassination squad, but we don't really know much more about the squad. Like we know that he kills really bad guys,
Hmm.
but also he questions a lot of things. So I mean,
Oh,
it's just the first episode,
yeah.
but
Triage is, from what I understand, is sort of pre-surgery where wounds are assessed and they work out what needs to be done. Um,
right. Actually, let's see exactly what Google says triage is.
I picked that up from MASH many years ago. So.
Yeah, the assigned degrees of urgency to wounded.
Patients, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess we're trying to figure out how screwed up he is. I don't know.
Okay.
Like how, because
Yeah.
at the end of this episode, he's talking to his other friends.
Hmm.
Like, so he's like a multiple personality. Like he's got
Okay, that's not
bi
unusual for an
personality.
assassin in anime. Yeah.
Yeah, like he's talking and he's like Ryu, and his friend I
Mhm.
think was Ryu, and you see a kid sitting there. So that was kind of weird but interesting. I think it definitely can go one of two ways. It can totally fuck itself up and not make any sense
Okay.
and lose that like awesomeness,
Mhm.
or and because my thing is that there's just so many boobs. Listen, boobs are great. You know what? I freaking love Chiho and her bouncing melons and everything. It's fantastic. All right. I love Esdeath, Akami could kill. She's my waifu. I love Esdeath. I really do. So she's one of my favorite characters just because she's such a bitch, but she's so hot.
I have to get back to that show one of these days.
What?
I have to get back to that one of these days. I
It's
liked the first
fantastic.
episode, but I kind of got sidetracked.
It's great. So anyway, so as death, so
Mhm.
I am not against boobs.
Right. I understand.
I'm not against fan service. I get
Yeah.
it. That's a point.
Yeah.
Um, but can we not make the fan service um like compete with the story? I mean, the story seems to have
Wow.
some substance,
Wow. That
So
was my
that's
big.
my thing.
That was my big complaint about High School of the Dead was the fan service was getting in the way of the tension.
Yeah.
So that'll be interesting.
So, things that I've watched recently, I told you Majida Watashi,
Hmm.
blah, blah, blah. Actually, that anime was really good. It ended very, very well. There was this subplot to the government and all this stuff, and it's definitely harem, super harem trope.
Okay.
But, if you can stand that part of it, it's got a nice message. The whole time he's saying, like, why am I going to fight for this country? La 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 la. And he figures out his reasons for living, his reasons for fighting, or is that okay? His reason that he wants to fight for the country now is be able to say the things that he loves. This is massive spoiler. I really don't give a shit, but because if you watch it, you'll watch it and you'll think it's hilarious too. But his thing that he loves is hermit crabs.
Wow.
I was sitting there going like, oh my god. And he's got like, a huge assortment of chicks that are like crazy for him, you know, from the crazy one, literally, to the one that has like a talking animal, to the one that is a German girl that's like super hot that he's seen naked completely, but he's just not interested. He's into hermit crabs.
Okay, this sounds really fun.
It is fucking fantastic. Way more fun than I thought it would be, for sure. There's great gags. It's overtly sexual at times, but it doesn't take itself seriously at all.
Just so I can get the name, post some like the my anime list page about it or something in the community.
Yeah, I will. Because it's a fun one. What else was I watching? I told you Black Cat. Casher and Sins. I've been watching Casher and Sins. That's great. And I also started watching Kino's Journey. Because I've never seen Kino's Journey.
I've never heard of it, actually.
It's very mushishi to me.
Okay. I tried mushishi. I got a little bored.
Well, it's got this, I mean, I think so far, like, I've started watching it, and so far I've enjoyed it in the sense that it's got this whole story to being about this kid who's just traveling around seeing the world, but he's trying to kind of just see everything, and he doesn't want to put any roots down. So he's traveling through the world and he's seeing like issues with things, but he's not really trying to get himself too involved, but he's kind of involved and sometimes. That's kind of where I got from.
Sounds like
I've only watched 4 episodes, so it's interesting.
Any further with Flamenco or Sunday Without God?
No, Flamenco I have to go back to. I just haven't. I mean, Spring Simulcast once I hit.
Right, once it starts, you kind of get piled on.
Yeah.
I cleared almost my entire queue for the Spring Simulcast because I had about 20 shows in there that I'd planned to watch, and maybe I'd watched one episode, but never gotten back to them. So I cleared almost all of them.
Because there's so much.
Actually, I'm pretty late this season. I've been. There was one season I was doing like 20 shows.
Oh, I've got way too many shows in my queue right now, like way too many. And there's stuff that I've started that I need to finish. There's stuff that like I put on pause because I just got frustrated. Like, okay, for instance, I was watching Shakugan no Shana, and Shakugan no Shana had a great storyline, very typical, but then it just like it stopped being fun. And it started being all about this like love triangle thing, and I can't deal with that. So, but overall, like I liked where it initially was going, and I don't know if I can go back to it. So that's my frustration is once I get to that moment where I watch it and then I'm just like, okay.
I'm pretty brutal. I'll give anything 1 episode. Yeah. But I'm pretty brutal with that at that point because I've stopped like 15 minutes into an episode and said no. There are some I don't even give a full episode. It's like, okay, this is not interesting to me. Move on.
Yeah, like I can marathon something as long as it can keep my interest. And my big thing is all about well-developed plot, well-developed character development. Wow, that's like redundant, but so that's kind of where I kind of have issues with even some of my queue that I'm just like, okay, I should really get back to this at some point just to finish it, just to say I freaking finished it, I hated it, or actually
I won't do that. Awesome. If I don't like it, I axe it if I don't like it.
Yeah.
I'm surprised I really like the 4 I've seen today.
Which
there's been 4 new ones: Recon, Gunslinger, Dungeon, and Classic Memories. Forgot the best one.
Classic Memories. So, of all these spring ones that have come out, what do you think is the most promising?
Classic Memories.
For sure. Me too.
Yeah, Recon is a close second, just because it's not a story anime. I have a feeling it's going to be very episodic. But it just balances the three really beautifully. It's cute, it's legit scary at points and creepy.
Really?
It's really funny at points too. It balances those three really beautifully.
Huh. So
Because
that would be on
it's a slice of life high school girl anime, effectively.
yeah.
But
Well,
it's
like we said, all anime is essentially.
well, yeah, but it's a very slice of life. It follows this girl through her it's a cute girl anime, effectively. But she can see ghosts.
Interesting.
Mhm.
Anything else?
That covers it.
Oh, when is Attack on Titan coming back?
Has there been word? I haven't heard.
I thought it was coming back.
Ooh.
I thought it was coming back. Hang on. 2016. Ah, I thought it was.
Okay. So next year. Well, that's more than we had before.
Yeah. I really don't like how Attack on Titan ended.
Really?
But well, because you expect it. Like I love the story. They could have twisted it a little more, but
I there was a head fake in and this is huge spoilers for anybody who hasn't seen Titan.
we've got to do Titan at least before.
I'm gonna do the spoiler finger for this one. Just mute the audio until I put my finger down. If you haven't seen Titan.
Yeah.
The episode where they're in the forest and everybody's in the treetops and they're talking amongst each other to figure out what happened with the female Titan, and one of them says, "Where's Krista?"
Yep.
I totally bought that head fake because I had forgotten completely about Annie. We hadn't seen her since the beginning.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I thought it was Krista the whole time until they revealed that it's Annie.
Yeah. I kind of got that a little bit sooner than I probably should have.
You remembered. If I'd remembered Annie, I would have put two and two together, but I didn't.
No, because as soon as I saw the female Titan, and I was remembering how pissy and bitchy Annie was towards Aaron,
right?
and towards the group. And also, she's a really strong character. So for me, it was more of a like, oh, come on, did you really have to go there?
Once I rewatched it, when I saw that beginning, I knew it was obvious. But I bought it the first time, and the ending itself, it didn't really lead anywhere because it was a season 2 setup.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, well, that's exactly what I was going for.
I made the mistake of reading a little too much on the wiki, so now there are a couple of other Titans that I know the identity of.
Oh no, you weren't supposed to do that.
Unfortunately, I have a tendency to like spoilers a bit too much, and I get myself in trouble sometimes. So that's why I didn't. I liked the ending because it was a surprise. Yeah, you remembered a bit too much from the beginning.
Yeah, no, for me, I was just like, oh no, why? Another anime that I'm looking forward to for second season is Aldnoah Zero. That one I heard recently that was slated for a second season. So I'd like to see where they go with that, particularly since Netflix is producing it. So.
Oh wow! You saw? I'm guessing you saw the thing I posted about Knights of Sidonia.
Yeah, I think I'm not Aldnoah Zero. I'm sorry. I'm thinking of Knights of Sidonia. That's what I'm talking about. Knights of Sidonia, not Aldnoah Zero. Sorry, my brain just.
No, yes. I'm looking forward to that series. That was one. Actually, you called it because I was kind of iffy on the beginning, and you had said like give it till like episode 5 or 6.
Yeah, it was. Knights of Sidonia was a really random kind of anime, but it definitely got better. I
think it was episode 6 kicked in, which is the one you said like give it till then. That's when it gets good.
Yep.
And right, yeah, that's when it really kicked in and kept going from there. I like I actually like the romantic subplot. on
The
this.
romantic subplot? Oh, going on. Yeah. I got
And
you.
the gender neutral person.
Yes.
Yeah,
I like that too.
I like
like
his
that
her character.
I'm not sure what she is.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we will probably end there.
Okay.
I
So
um,
next, are we? Because there are 13 episodes in part timer. Are we going to 13 next, or are we breaking it up?
let's knock it out because
Okay.
I mean it's not too crazy, you know.
And we've got till Tuesday, so that's plenty of time to
Yeah,
watch them.
yeah. Let's give it until Tuesday to knock it
Okay.
out.
All right. Very good.
Tuesday or Thursday. I have to see what my
Well,
schedule.
we'll say yeah, whatever. Yeah.
So.
Okay.
All right.
Have a good
Okay.
night.
Have a good night. Bye.